You have felt it before. A moment arrives completely ordinary. You are mid-sentence, or stepping into a room, or reaching for a door, and suddenly something is wrong. You have been here before, exactly here, this precise moment down to the smallest detail, even though you know with total certainty that you haven't. The feeling lasts a second, maybe two. Then it is gone. You shake it off and carry on. But for that strange flicker, two impossible things were true at once. The moment felt completely familiar, and you knew that familiarity could not be real. That contradiction has a name: déjà vu.
It is French for already seen, and almost everyone knows the feeling. Surveys suggest that around 2 out of 3 people have experienced it at least once. But here is the first surprising thing, the thing that turns this whole mystery on its head. Déjà vu is not a memory failing. It is not your brain dropping something it should have held. In a strange way, it may be the exact opposite. It may be your brain working a little too well. To understand why, you have to look at how your sense of familiarity actually works, because it is doing far more than you ever notice. Right now, your brain is quietly tagging the entire world around you with a feeling. The feeling of familiarity. When you see a friend's face, you do not consciously dig through your memory to identify them. You simply know them instantly, effortlessly. That instant knowing is a system running silently beneath your awareness, every second, sorting the world into the familiar and the new. You never feel it working. You only feel its conclusions. But familiarity is only half of memory. There is a second system, and it has a completely different job. It is called recollection. Familiarity is the raw feeling that something is known. Recollection is the part that tells you why. It retrieves the actual memory, the where and the when and the how. You see a face. Familiarity says you know this person. Then recollection arrives a beat later with the name, the place you met them, the story. Normally, these two work together so seamlessly that you have no idea they are even separate things.
So what happens if one of them fires without the other? That is déjà vu. In that uncanny moment, your familiarity system lights up. It floods the scene with the powerful, undeniable sense that you have been here before. But your recollection system reaches into memory and comes back with nothing. No where, no when, no source. Because in truth, none exists. You are left holding the feeling of a memory with no memory underneath it. A signal with no origin. Your brain is shouting that this is familiar and cannot tell you why. And that exact gap, that mismatch, is the eerie feeling itself. This is not just a tidy theory. These two systems live in real, physical places, deep inside a region called the medial temporal lobe, tucked roughly behind your ears. And there is powerful evidence for where the false familiarity is born. In people with a certain kind of epilepsy, seizures that begin in this exact region very often start with a sudden, intense wave of déjà vu. The feeling is so consistent that doctors use it as a clue, a marker pointing to where the seizure is firing. And decades ago, the neurosurgeon Wilder Penfield discovered that he could summon a vivid rush of déjà vu in his patients simply by touching that part of the brain with a small electrical current. The feeling, it turns out, has an address. But for the rest of us, the ones without epilepsy, what actually sets it off? Why does a perfectly ordinary Tuesday suddenly feel like a scene you have already lived? A psychologist named Anne Cleary has spent years chasing exactly that question, and what she found is quietly brilliant. Her idea is that déjà vu strikes when a brand new scene secretly resembles an old one. Not in its details, but in its shape, its spatial layout, the arrangement of things in the space around you. To test it, Cleary built scenes in virtual reality. She would guide people through one room and then later drop them into a completely different room, a new place with different objects and different colors, but with the walls and furniture arranged in the exact same layout as the earlier one. And people reported déjà vu. The new scene felt eerily, inexplicably familiar, even though they had genuinely never seen it. Because somewhere beneath awareness, its structure matched something they had seen and forgotten. They could not place it. They could not say why. But their familiarity system noticed the hidden match, and it rang the bell. Now think about what that means for your real life, away from any laboratory. You walk into a hotel lobby you have never visited, and without knowing it, the layout quietly echoes your grandmother's old house, or a hallway from a film you watched once as a child, or some blurred composite of 1,000 half-glimpsed places your brain has filed away and you will never consciously recall. You cannot retrieve a single one of them, but the shape is familiar, and your brain, doing its job perfectly, tells you so. So far, this might still sound like a simple malfunction, a crossed wire, a false alarm in the system. But here is the twist that turns déjà vu from a glitch into something almost miraculous.
A researcher named Akira O'Connor wanted to see what is genuinely happening inside the brain during déjà vu. So his team worked out a way to reliably trigger the feeling in the lab and then watched people's brains in the act. And what lit up was not what anyone expected. It was not the memory centers blazing away. It was the frontal regions of the brain, the areas involved in decision-making, in monitoring, in checking for errors and resolving conflicts. Sit with that for a second. During déjà vu, the busiest part of your brain is not the part that remembers. It is the part that fact-checks your memories. O'Connor's interpretation is striking. The false familiarity arrives, and instead of simply swallowing it whole, your brain notices that something is off. It cross-examines its own signal. It says, in effect, you are telling me this is familiar, but I have no record of it anywhere, and that does not add up. The unsettling feeling you call déjà vu may be nothing less than the feeling of your brain catching its own mistake. And that flips the entire thing around. Déjà vu is not evidence that your memory is broken. It may be evidence that your memory is working beautifully, that your mind is monitoring itself so carefully, so relentlessly, that it can catch a false signal in the very act of misfiring and flag it straight to your awareness. The discomfort is not a failure. It is quality control.
If you want proof of how important that fact checker is, look at what happens when it breaks. A researcher named Chris Moulin has studied rare patients who live in a state of permanent déjà vu, a condition sometimes called déjà vécu, already lived. For them, the false familiarity never switches off, and crucially, they believe it. One patient stopped watching the news because he was certain he had already seen every broadcast. Another would not read the newspaper, insisting he already knew every word. The strange thing is, the false signal these patients feel is the very same one you feel during an ordinary flash of déjà vu. The difference is only this. Their brain's checker has stopped working, so they accept the lie. Yours catches it. That is the entire reason your déjà vu feels weird instead of convincing. The weirdness is the sound of your mind refusing to be fooled. There is one more piece, and it is the part people get most wrong of all. When déjà vu hits, it often drags a second feeling along with it, stranger than the first. The overpowering sense that you know what is about to happen next, as if you have already seen the scene play out and you can feel its ending coming. People walk away from déjà vu utterly convinced they had a glimpse of the future.
Anne Cleary tested that too. She waited for the déjà vu to strike inside her virtual scenes, and then, in that exact moment, she asked people to predict what came next, which way the path would bend, what would appear around the corner, and the result is the whole illusion laid bare. People felt absolutely certain they knew what was coming, and they performed no better than random chance. The sense of seeing the future was completely real as a feeling, and completely empty as a fact. Déjà vu does not show you what happens next. It only feels with enormous force like it should. There is even a clue hidden in who gets déjà vu and when. It is most common in younger people, in your teens, in your 20s, and it slowly fades as the years go on. At first, that seems backward. More years should mean more stored memories and more chances for a false match. But if déjà vu really is the sound of your brain catching its own errors, the pattern suddenly makes sense. A young brain may simply be a sharper, more aggressive fact-checker, quicker to spot the mismatch and sound the alarm. As that vigilance gently softens with age, the false signals may keep arriving. You just slowly stop noticing them. And that is the quietly staggering truth underneath all of this.
Every single moment of your life, your brain is making thousands of silent judgments about what is real, what is familiar, what you have seen before, and what you have not. It does this invisibly, constantly, and it is almost always right. You move through your entire day trusting that the familiar is familiar and the new is new, never once glimpsing the machinery that makes that trust possible. Deja vu is the rare crack in that surface. The one moment the machine slips, catches itself slipping, and lets you feel the whole thing happen. It is, in its strange way, a gift. For a second or two, you are not simply living your life. You are watching your own mind check its work. You are feeling the precise instant your brain refuses to be fooled, even by itself. So the next time it happens, the next time a perfectly ordinary moment arrives and you are suddenly eerily certain that you have been here before, stop. You haven't. There is no hidden past, no forgotten life, no glimpse of the future waiting just around the corner. What you are feeling is something far stranger and far better than any of that. It is your own mind, fact-checking reality in real time, and for one fleeting second, letting you watch it work.